Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Karger. I graduated from Duke in 1995. I'm a host on Turner Classic Movies. And it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce the amazing panel that we have here today and to thank you all for joining us for this Duke Create and Demon Live event, expertly put together by the fabulous Amy Unell. Amy, thank you so much for, as always, everything that you do for all of us Dukies. And you had some help. You had a lot of student organizations that helped put this together. So I just want to acknowledge a bunch of organizations that really helped with this. So the Duke Independent Film Festival, thanks guys. Free Water Productions, Free Water Presentations, which I was very involved in when I was an undergrad. Small Town Records, thanks to you guys as well, and Business Oriented Women. So this could not have happened without all of the help and support and coordination of all of these amazing groups. So guys, thank you so much. And I'm just so excited for this event, and especially because at the forefront is my Duke freshman dorm mate, Lisa Katz, class of '95, who really instigated this and was the driving force behind making this happen. And she and I graduated together 25 years ago. Haven't had our 25th reunion just yet. Maybe one day it will actually happen. But it's been so fun for me to see her crazy, amazing, impressive rise through the ranks at Fox and now NBC, where she is the co-president of Scripted at NBC. Am I right, Lisa? Is that the correct title? So well done, you. So we're here to talk about one of her great shows, which is Good Girls. And you've gathered together 3 of your cohorts from the show, one of whom, your star, Retta, along with Mae Whitman and Christina Hendricks, is a Dookie herself. So what I'm gonna do, there she is. What's up, Retta? And then also we have Bill Krebs and Jenna Bams, who are the showrunners, writers, exec producers. Jenna's also the creator of the show. So what I want to do before we get started is just kind of have the 4 of you special guests introduce yourself a little bit. And I'm going to start with you, Lisa. And I just want you to explain to everybody who's watching this what you do generally at your job at NBC, and then specifically what do you do in relation to the show Good Girls. So take it away, Lisa.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. I run scripted programming for NBC. I've been in this position for about 2 years. Prior to that, I ran drama development at NBC, which means that we develop all the 1-hour scripted programs that air on the network. And it was within maybe my first month on the job, Jenna came, or actually we went to a bar, and over drinks, Jenna pitched a couple ideas she had that she was thinking in terms of doing a show. And she pitched a couple lines of what would be Good Girls. And I said, that's the one. And she quickly came in and pitched it to the rest of the team and wrote an incredible script and cast an amazing group of women, and we shot it and picked it up. So it was one of the first shows I developed and produced while I was at NBC, and we're so happy that now it's going into its 4th season.
Yeah, congrats to you all on the renewal.
Thank you.
Season 4, which I guess was about 2 months ago that was announced, I think, right?
It feels like it could have been last week. It feels like it could have been 7 years ago.
Who really knows? Jenna, what do you recall from that meeting at the bar?
I recall we were definitely at a bar having some drinks. And one of the things I love about this group at NBC, and Lisa in particular, is that as a writer, you go in to pitch meetings or whatever with a few ideas going, they're gonna pick the conventional one. They're gonna pick the procedural one. They're gonna pick, I had like a medical examiner one that I wasn't excited about at all, but I was like, I know they want something like that, so I'll just do it. And what I love about Lisa and her team is that, I don't know if it's that you could tell I was bored by the other ones, or that you yourself, which I think it's more this, just gravitate to more in sort of original ideas. And yeah, I got a couple lines out. I think I said it's about 3 women who are just sort of fed up with their lives and decide to rob a grocery store, which if you just heard that out of context, you'd be like, why, what? And she was like, I love it. Let's do that, go work on it. So yeah, I just remember she was really receptive to the idea up front. And then I knew it was gonna be a really good time collaborating with her to make it come to life.
So as I said, Jenna, you're the creator of the show. Both you and Bill are writers and EPs. Can you take us through, you know, kind of on a macro level and on a day-to-day level, how this show fits in with your life? Because I'm sure you're doing other projects at the same time.
Well,
not
is
always.
Our life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
no, you go ahead.
okay, well, it's, I mean, Bill and I sort of work as a team.
I mean, I met Jenna on another show for ABC years ago called The Family, and we sort of developed kind of a rapport and an ease of use of like how we kind of work together. And so when this pilot came out, Jenna sent it to me, and early on, I remember reading it, and I was just like, oh, this is definitely gonna get picked up. There's like, I was super excited about it. And then came on board season 1, and then, yeah, been here ever since.
But I think
yeah.
what I have in Bill is something most creators don't get, is it can be a really lonely job. You know, you of course have a whole staff of writers, and they're always awesome, but at the end of the day, it's, some shows are more your voice, and you know, the characters are more in your head, and it's hard. And I've been in the position on other shows as a writer where it's been hard for me to get what the creator wants, because it's such a subjective, specific thing. So when I met Bill, he sort of just got it right away. And I remember thinking, I was like, I think he might write these women better than I do. And I was like, when you find someone like that, you're like, oh, this is the key to having a life. It's the key to not having everything on you. And so ever since then, I think we've been sort of running the show together.
But it also helps in like some of our discussions, like if we
slash fights,
lots of fights. No, but if there's an argument between Dean and Beth or something, a lot of that comes from our own argument, just discussing the topic that they're discussing. And we actually put on the page kind of even the point of view that we actually had when we were having the very same argument in the writer's room about it. So it's like we get both sides of it, and it helps kind of have altering point of views within it.
And it's very collaborative. You know, we have a great team of writers who we also work with. We all write sort of every script, and then we take the script through production. A writer goes on set and sort of, you know, helps to produce the episode. And then Bill and I kind of jump in again in post and follow the episode through editing and sound mixing. And Bill really is wonderful with music, and that's become a big, you know, part of the show over the seasons. And I think you can look at the season, like you can see season 1. It's not like I was doing the music alone. Season 1, you were helping, but I feel like you took a stronger, the music got better the more Bill got involved. Put it that way.
True.
No,
that's
it is true. Anyway, so
we found more of the show. We found more of the show, and it started to fit the tone of the show more.
So it's it's a, you know, it's a long day, but it's also really fun, and we're, you know, we always feel really lucky to get to do what we're doing, because we're mostly just fighting or laughing or more fighting than writing. So
you guys are really like fun. Your work spouses. I like that.
Yeah,
totally, in the worst way.
And divorcees and spouses, then divorce.
Forced to work together.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Okay. This is really getting intense pretty quick. Okay, but that's okay.
We're gonna work out all our problems on
That's all right. Listen,
one of us will be crying by the end of this.
Or like in 5 minutes.
Retta, obviously you had a history with NBC from Parks and Rec. How did the pilot script make its way to you? Just through the typical channels? Did you chase it? What happened?
We chased her.
Chased her so hard.
It was serendipitously emailed to me. My manager emailed it to me. I was in Vancouver working on Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, and which is another NBC Universal show. So I've been with NBC almost my entire life. But I got an email from my manager, you know, because when it's time for pilots to get made, they try to, you know, get you as many as you get. I generally don't get a lot of pilots sent to me. But I've been lucky that once I started getting pilots, you know, I've been able to work. So, but he emailed me and he was like, just look at it and see what it's, he's like, there's going to be a lot of, you know, it was kind of the rote thing. There's going to be a lot come in, don't worry. But this one we're sending you to read, and the writer wants to meet you on, what's the old before Zoom? The
FaceTime? FaceTime or
No,
Skype?
no.
We Skype.
It was Skype. She's like, they're willing to Skype with you, whatever. But it was very, you know, nonchalant. Because when it comes time for pilot season, you know, actors panic because they're like, this shit is ending. What's next? So I read it and I was like, you know, I got excited. Like I started to get sad, like a little bit salty because I wanted it. And that's the worst, because when you want it, you're like, But then he said to me, when I talked to him, I was like, yes, I want to meet her. I really like it. I want to do it. And he was like, just chill. But then he said, I did get a note saying they wrote the character with you in mind. And I was like,
oh my God.
Is totally true, by the way. By the way, the other side of this, while your manager was being so casual, like, don't get excited, don't get whatever it was, I pitched it with a giant picture of Retta next to the character of Ruby that she plays. And then our first offer, I was like, it has to be Retta. There can't be anyone else. So like, she has no idea that on our side, I'm like sweating and crying and like, we can't do the show if it's not Retta. So like everything was on this Skype. Like everything was on this Skype.
And I was,
She was the prototype.
She's totally the prototype.
Very much like, you know, when you read something, one that you get, like you get it, and then you read something where you're like, oh my God, if I could only do this monologue. Like, you know, like there's a piece that you read where you're like, please God, just let me. It's rare that I find that because there aren't parts written for me. But I didn't know that when I read it, but I was like, please God, you know, and I wasn't trying to, honestly, I wasn't that crazy, but I knew, you know, when your heart starts to like beat a little bit, you're like, oh, this one's gonna break my heart. But then I Skyped and it wasn't Janine, it was
me, I think it was
Liz?
Dean, the director of our pilot, Dean Pariseau.
No, it wasn't Dean.
It wasn't?
No, I met Dean at the lunch.
Oh.
It was
Totally
Janine.
intimidated by him.
Was it Liz? It might have been the casting.
I think it might have been Liz. It might have been Liz. And they were so nice, and I was like, oh, she's so normal, please God. So then I told my manager that I'd met with her, I really like it, so I want to do it. And then I was like, I'm done, so figure it out.
That's so great. Lisa, I feel like Good Girls, and you correct me if I'm mischaracterizing, but I feel like it's a unicorn on the NBC schedule. It doesn't have the word Chicago as the first word of the title. It's
Right.
not a audience multi-camera sitcom directed by the fabulous Jimmy Burrows. And as you were describing your previous job where you were just overseeing what was called quote unquote drama, the hour-long shows, this is an hour-long single cam with tons of great comedic elements to it. In fact, I'd be hard pressed if I had to call it a comedy or a drama, I'd almost call it a comedy. So it's got all of this stuff going on. Was that one of the things that most excited you about the idea? Were there ever discussions like, oh, it's so different from everything else on the schedule, where's it going to fit in as far as like a programming time slot? What were the conversations that went on as far as the actual green light?
Well, I think I heard the pitch I really think we met with Jenna within the first month that I'd started the job. And I had come from Fox Studio where we sold to other networks in addition to Fox Broadcasting. And I kind of understood what each network was. They had an identity. So I understood like a Fox show was, I'm going to use words like muscular and propulsive and noisy. And then CBS was a little more traditional, procedural. ABC was at that time was a lot of the Shonda shows was more female centric or heightened. And I think when I got to NBC, I was trying to figure out what the brand was, to be honest, because I would be selling to it, but being inside of it. And I learned that we have these marketing brand pillars that I can run through super quickly, but it's fundamentally positive, human first, intentionally inclusive, and inherent ingenuity. And basically what that means to me is character driven, aspirational, original, and inclusive. And I thought this show hit all of those things in my mind. And This Is Us hits all those things in the same way. So a show can hit all of those different targets and be very different from each other. But the thing, I had been a fan of Jenna's for a really long time as a writer and was excited to work with her. And one of the women on my team, Cara and Jenna, were very close, and Cara was responsible in part for bringing Jenna into the company. And I think for us, we try to do shows that really tap into someone's passion and vision and what they want to write about. So I think when she referenced the time where we were at the bar and she was talking about it, like you could see it, you could feel it. And for us, it's always like, what's the story you want to tell and what's the story you can write that no one else can write? And I think to have a show that really is about very dimensional women going through something and dealing with issues of female empowerment, dealing with female friendship, that wasn't on TV. And that was a show that I craved as a viewer, but also would be so excited to program. So I think while it might not have seemed the most obvious, it was a show that I felt was the kinds of show we should be doing. And so it wasn't hard to get greenlit, to be honest. And Jenna was pregnant with her second, and we were trying to get it all done before she had the baby. She literally she came like 2 days after we still looked.
Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 days after we stopped filming.
Oh my God.
So
I was really.
She was really good. She listened.
You were editing while you were like breastfeeding.
I
like,
was.
Like,
Yeah. I was. They were very flexible with me. The whole company was very flexible with me.
Yeah.
And very nervous I would go into labor like on location, you know, on the set.
Which is why we shot in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for that. And also I think to Retta's point, like this show, we cast before other pilots. Usually there's this frenzy in network television where you're doing the casting in January, February. We cast in November, December, earlier. Everything was earlier. But I think that the show it's special. And so it was very easy to fight for, and it was, easy to support.
Jenna, and both for you and Bill, when you guys are, crafting the show as far as the overall arcs, but also individual episodes, do you think about the ingredients? Because it does have comedy, drama, crime, action, all of these things that mesh so well together. Has that balance of all four of those, or whatever other ones that I'm not mentioning right now, has it changed? Have you wanted the show to fluctuate from season to season or within a season and become funnier in certain parts and, lean more on the action in other parts? Or do you want all of the different ingredients to blend evenly all the time?
Well, I think the first part of that is, we always talk about this, that the show's a tonal high wire, because it is a comedy, it is a drama, and if you lean too far in one direction, you get an entirely different show, and you kind of have to thread that needle and like go right down the middle. Otherwise, it isn't our show tonally. And we always, whenever we meet with new writers, we're always very, very vigilant about making sure that they understand that and that they can kind of do both those elements as well, because when it comes to the comedy or the drama, it all comes from character first. And it's not like we're writing jokes. We write scenes or moments that evolve from an emotional point of view, usually from the character, and whether it's they're in the middle of the crime or whatever they're doing, that's probably going to be what makes our jokes land the hardest.
Because, because the reaction to the situation is funny as opposed to them making jokes.
Making a joke. Yeah, and so so that's true of all of it. You know, whatever we're leaning into, whether it's the crime or whatever, it usually is coming from some place of the character story that we're trying to tell about them or about one of the characters in general.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say it's probably, I think we aim for mostly a blend.
Yeah.
But even the two of us will write a scene. Well, something will make us laugh as we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll write it and go, it just happened today.
Yeah.
So we're like, we've cracked up so hard about it yesterday.
And then we were like fighting to make it work.
And it doesn't work. It's too broad. It didn't seem like the character that was saying it.
It pulls you out of the moment of that you're trying to get across.
So sometimes we literally find it on the page. We're like, we love it, but it's not our show. And, we have to sort of kill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't your joke, Retta. It wasn't your joke.
Oh, that's funny.
Retta makes everything funny. We actually don't have, we could just write anything and it's going to be funny. So
one of the things that's so fun is, this question's for you, Retta, is the timing between you and Christina and May. And there's even moments where if the three of you are in a car and one person goes, the other one goes, and then one goes, okay. And it's all so perfectly timed, and it makes me think did this just happen, or was it literally planned out beat by beat, half second by half second? In general, what's it like for you as an actor coming from Parks and Rec, where there were probably 10 of you in every scene throwing stuff in? How has it been, the timing of 3?
I think it works. It gives us all a chance. We're pretty scripted. We do get some license with, if we feel something's not exactly in the character's voice, we send a quick text to Jenna and Bill to see if it works. But we tend to gel personally. So it's a lot easier for us to make the characters gel. And if we go in and do a rehearsal and one of us feels like something else might work, or even in the rehearsal, either during the rehearsal or between when they're doing lighting and we have a little downtime before we actually go and shoot, we'll tell each other, we'll be like, I think it'd be funnier coming from Annie if she said this instead of me, because then I can react like this, because remember when I did whatever, and we'll send a text and see if that fits. And if they're like, it's cool, then we do it. But so we kind of get it. We get the characters. So reactions are our own. Dialogue is written and some direction is written as to reaction, but we tend to do our own thing. And I think that's what people see on screen, is how we click. And so when, I feel like May is the perfect person between me and Christina, because she cracks us both up. And we all have different similarities. Like Christina and I are very similar when it comes to certain things, and May and Christina are very similar when it comes to certain things. And then May and I are, we each have these different, and then we make fun of each other when they fall outside of whatever it is, the thing that the other two get. And so we make fun of each other a lot. And there's a lot of ribbing, if you will. And so we kind of will take that on screen as well. We tend to make fun of Annie. And when, there's a scene written where we're both like, really? It's so much easier to play because we make fun of each other so much when when we have our downtime.
Yeah.
By the way, Retta, Christina just told us about a conversation you guys had as yourselves about that we're totally putting in the show. This kind of thing happens all the time. So Christina ordered I'm probably telling the story wrong. Christina ordered a crepe. There was a crepe truck on set, and she was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get a crepe." And she ordered a crepe with chicken and egg in it. And Retta had some reaction like, "You're gonna eat chicken and egg together?" And she's like, "Why wouldn't I eat chicken and egg together?" And
it's the mother and child.
Yeah, you're eating your babies.
You're eating and then Annie was like, and then Annie Mae jumped in with something, and I was like, that is so a conversation the actual characters would have if you know, Beth ordered a chicken and egg crepe. And
we already put it on the board.
It's going in the season already because it made us laugh. So they really like so much. I mean, you know, Retta just said it, but I think they're such good friends off screen, and I think that chemistry always translates.
Well, when we're in post, I mean, to what Retta's saying, a lot of times their energy is so good that we often find ourselves cutting our own dialogue because a look from Retta or a reaction from May is so much funnier than anything we wrote.
And
that,
says the moment better than we did, basically.
Yeah, because they actually got what the best part of the scene was more so than the words that we wrote.
Yeah.
Lisa, I have a question for you about the marketing and the consumption of Good Girls, because I think I think, again, it's unlike any show that I can think of on NBC. You have some of the Dick Wolf kind of stuff where every hour is very self-contained. Then you even have a show like This Is Us, which does have story arcs, but many different story arcs that come and go, you know, and get more prominence at certain points in the season. I feel like a show like Good Girls reminds me almost of Ozark, where there really is the one overarching story arc that propels the show. So what kind of, I mean, you think about when you guys debuted the show, you had a trailer for the show. It felt like a trailer for a movie. And it makes sense to me that a lot of people are watching Good Girls, I would imagine, on Netflix, because the first couple seasons are on Netflix. So how did you go about marketing the show at the outset? And how have you guys pushed different ways for people to consume the show because the show is a little bit different?
I think what we're finding being on a broadcast network is we are the starting place for many shows, and then they go on to live very long lives on digital. And that's the, you know, case for some of our comedies, many of our comedies, but Good Place, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and also for the dramas. And Good Girls has been such a good example of something that, again, you know, launched on NBC. And I think we promoted the element. I mean, I think the thing that draws people to the show is the characters, the tone, the concept, all things that we marketed towards. But I think also because of the serialized storytelling, I think it's something that people love to watch and consume in chunks on a, you know, Hulu or on Netflix, and it goes on Netflix. So I think that, you know, this business is becoming so complicated in shows that we look at a show from its linear rating, its digital rating, and we also found that the Netflix audience drove people to watch it back, not necessarily on broadcast, but digitally when we came back a year later. So we're finding that it's all part of the same ecosystem. I'm just really proud that it started with us.
I get it. Retta, you've touched on this a little bit, but in a general sense, just as an actor, what would you say this show and this role have allowed you to do that maybe you haven't had the chance to do with other parts of your career, other roles in your career?
I saw it when I read the pilot. I knew exactly who the person was. It was a fully formed character. I knew exactly what I wanted the relationship to be with her husband, Stan. Like, I just saw everything. Whereas in other parts, I've only been in, you know, serialized 2 other shows where I did more than 1 season. And I felt like I was kind of, you know, figuring it out based on what the writers gave me. And but with this, I saw the character as a fully formed human being. There are actors who can create backstory and, you know, that thing where they're like, what were you doing just before the, I'm not that actor. I'm not, you know, I'm not that touchy feely. Like, I'm like, tell me what happened. Tell me what did she do? Okay, got it. I'll play that. But this was the first time I read something and I was like, I know her. And I don't know if it's not necessarily I know her because she's someone in my life or, you know, or she's me. I guess I watch enough TV and I know enough about the spectrum of women in the world that I could pluck exactly who she was out just on the pilot. And granted, in the pilot, you know, she was going through hell. You know, she had a sick daughter, and that alone gives you so much information about the character. But for me, it was obvious who she was.
I like that. Here's a question for all of you. I'm going to have Bill and Jenna answer it first. Obviously, no matter what any of us do for work, the pandemic has created so many challenges. Can you guys each tell me a challenge that this pandemic has created that you've figured out how to overcome? And what's a challenge that you're still figuring out and working on?
Well, personally or creatively or like
whatever comes to mind, but probably professionally. You don't have to get too crazy.
Bill's having a lot of challenges.
I'm having a lot of challenges day to day. I'm trying to think of.
I mean, I think the writer's room just being over Zoom is
and production, which hasn't started yet. But
right.
I mean, both of those, yeah. A writer's room works. It's like an organism where you have all these writers who are sitting in a circle, and you're kind of, it's a sanctuary. You're confessing all your darkest secrets, and you never know where an idea is going to come from when you're telling stories, and you're just going around and around. And with Zoom, as you can see just from this, it's like you're facing forward, and there's sort of a formality to it, and it doesn't feel as natural. So it's harder to kind of pull stuff out of people and be more casual because there's just this whole presence is different.
I think it's the type of thing that probably translate. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing it translates better to in a boardroom type situation or executive meeting type situation. But yeah, the writer's room is this very intimate place where we literally take things from people's lives that have happened to them.
You're stuck with this group in a giant cramped place for 12 hours a day,
totally. And
eating
it's fun,
with them, and that for months. And you learn every single thing about a person. And I mean, Jen and I recognized early on when the lot shut down at Universal that we were going to have a problem creatively because we do everything together, and our dynamic works in very much the same way. And so we actually quarantined both our families sort of together and early on, and just so we knew we'd be able to finish out the season, which we still had to do, and then also start for season 4 because on Zoom it's just there's too much personal stuff in these episodes to kind of get it, or to be on Zoom for 12 hours a day. I just don't know how. We don't do that. Yeah.
And then the other side to it, I think, which we haven't totally figured out yet, is production and how that's going to work. You know, how you can have a 100-person crew, 150-person crew on a stage and keep everybody safe, you know, including the actors who can't wear masks. So that's all sort of a work in progress, and there are way smarter people than us working on that. But I think it's going to come with a lot of challenges this
creatively too, because there'll be things we won't be allowed to do probably. And we don't know that yet. So we're writing now. And so we have to write, and we've actually said, well, how do we produce this? We're like, well, if we don't do that, then maybe we could do B or C, you know? And so we're kind of coming up with other alternatives in our head already in case we're not allowed to do something.
Which honestly isn't the most creative free way to write either. You know, we find ourselves getting to scenes going like, ugh.
We can do it on the back lot.
Yeah, we really should minimize locations because of COVID. So maybe we can shoot this here, and we'll actually change the sort of, you know, tone of the scene to be more COVID precaution friendly, and it feels very it's not ideal.
And what we normally do is we reach for the sky and write whatever we want, and then we lay it on our line producer to go figure it out.
And keep it on.
So I mean, can you even write a scene with May, Christina, and Retta in a car right now? Or
That's been discussed. I mean,
Yeah,
we are,
we are.
but that we talk about that all the time. You know, we're hoping that by the time production comes around, there'll be, you know, more testing, there'll be more things that will enable, you know, more protocols in place that will enable those types of things to happen.
Yeah, because I don't think you can do the show without, you know, those three. The show is those three women together in a room or a car, like wherever they are. It's not them 10 feet apart in masks. So
Right.
it's you know, I think it's a challenge we're just gonna have to figure out and figure out a way to make it work while keeping people safe.
so Lisa, for you, I mean, your day must be consumed with these conversations on your slate in general and on the specific challenges of every show that you have in production. What's that been like?
Awesome. No, I mean, the studios are doing more of the heavy lifting and planning, but what we're struggling with is we still have a schedule and we need to program things and know what's coming, and nobody knows. So I think it's about everybody, you know, preparing and hoping for the best and coming up with contingency plans in the event we aren't able to shoot when everybody ideally would like to. We just greenlit 8 episodes of a show that will be shot in a very COVID friendly way. So I think that some of the things that it's doing is inspiring some innovation and some different ideas that we're experimenting with. But at the end of the day, like, people come to TV for the characters. They love these characters and we need to deliver that. So figuring out how to do that safely as soon as possible is pretty much what takes up all of our time.
How are you coping, Retta, as a performer, not being able to perform in the ways that you're used to?
Oh, it's the worst. I mean, we, you know, Christina, May, and I text each other every other day, like, I miss you guys, what is this? But also not wanting to be in a, you know, unsafe environment. And my thing is I know them. We're all scaredy cats on the same level. So I don't fear going back to work with them. You know, it's the randos that we're gonna have to deal with. Like, we don't know what everybody's doing. So I know there's gonna be protocols in place. And once those are done, we'll see. And hopefully we're like, okay, I'm cool with it. But I've been doing, I got my first commercial voiceover job. I was like, woohoo, look at me, diversifying. So
From home, you get to do it from home.
Is
Wait,
that the setup in your house?
Well, no. The setup was for a podcast that I'm doing for the suffragist. It's a congressional council, but it's about the suffragists. So that's what that setup was. No, the commercial voiceover stuff I actually did in a studio. And so, you know, they have their protocols in place. And they were like, well, can you come in tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I can't trust that it's going to be clean by tomorrow. So maybe Tuesday, you know, that kind of thing. Because again, I don't want to put myself in jeopardy. So you know, that's different, you know, auditioning. A lot of people have been auditioning. I'm like, y'all are auditioning on Zoom? Really? God bless.
Wow.
But, you know, just finding different things to, you know, keep you busy and try to earn
Right.
on downtime.
Given the fact that we have a lot of people watching this right now that are either current Duke students or young alums, I want to get some thoughts from the 4 of you guys on how people can navigate the job search. You know, if people want to be a writer's assistant or a PA, I mean, it's so hard anyway. And right now, what's shooting and what's staffing and what writers' rooms are happening, even on Zoom. Not that there's a magic solution for any of these questions, but I'll start with you, Bill and Jenna. Do you guys have thoughts on ways that people can try to break in right now in this crazy time?
Now it's tough because we're not allowed to have, I mean, everything's over Zoom. And so to be an assistant, which is basically how, you know, pretty much how you break into the world of it, there aren't a lot of things for assistants to do right now because we're all sort of self-sufficient out of our own homes. In general,
I mean, I think there's still, you know, I guess now you got to just write letters, email. I mean, I started out, you know, working at an agency as an agent's assistant just to sort of learn the business. And from there, you know, I parlayed it into more of the writing world. But I would say, I think a lot of young people come out here and they're like, I have to be a writer's assistant. Yeah. I have to be in a writer's room like right away. And there are so many assistant jobs that give you a taste of the business without necessarily, you know, needing those jobs that are so sort of sought after. I mean, I know people that have assisted casting directors, and then once you're in the world, that's how you make contacts, and it's much easier to then transition to where you want to be more. So I would say, like, don't limit yourself to shows.
Yeah, if it's not COVID times, absolutely. I mean, one of our writers assistants actually came from our production in Atlanta, season 1. He was a production assistant, which had nothing to do with the writer's room. He was thousands of miles from us, but we were going back and forth to Atlanta, and he just kept expressing how much he wanted to be a writer, and he was a really hard worker. And we offered him at the end of the season, if he wanted to move to LA, that he could be an assistant, you know, in the writer's room. And so he did it.
Yeah.
And he took the risk and came out, and he's now Jenna's assistant, actually. So
I also love your story. I mean, this is not for COVID times because it involved socialization, but how you did it, you were like, I moved to LA and went to every party I could get an invite to.
I mean, you do have to move to LA is the problem. I think that's what I tell, you know, people. I'm from Michigan originally, and I tell anyone from back there, you can't do it from afar. I have a lot of people said, I'm just gonna keep my day job in Michigan or wherever, and I'm gonna write a script, and when it's perfect, I'm gonna then send it to someone, and they're gonna want to offer me a job, and then I'll move out.
Right.
I've never seen that happen. Maybe it happens, you know, once in 100 years or whatever, but you have to move out here, and everything's so serendipitous. You never know when an opportunity is gonna arise. And to what Jenna said, when I moved out here, I didn't know anyone. And I just made myself available for anything or anyone that I met. If I was at Starbucks and met someone and they said, oh, I'm having a house party, and I went to that party and I met all those people. And then from that, I met someone else and went to another party, and I just kept going and kept going because you just never know.
And didn't you get your first job that way?
Yeah, and then I met, I went to a party and I met a producer named Barry Josephson at a party and was telling him what I wanted to do. And he said, I actually have 2 shows that are about to go. He said, why don't you come tomorrow and talk, you know, with me more in detail? And I went and talked with him, and I got on one of his shows as a writer's PA. And that's
what's that?
That was Head Cases.
Yep, that was mine.
Yeah, that's right. That was Head Cases. And then I went to Bones after that, and how I got on Bones. Unfortunately, the show I was on got canceled. And about 6 months later, I had a friend who was a writer's PA on Bones, season 1. And he called me and he said, I got another job somewhere else. I don't remember what show it was on. He said, so I'm going to quit. And he said, but if you come, I'm going to give you a drive on for the lot. We'll get lunch together. I'm going to quit at lunch. And then when they get mad that I'm quitting, I'm going to tell them that you're my replacement, and you can start.
That's so good.
And so I sat in his office. He went and he quit. And then he said, oh, and Bill's right outside. And I walked into the writer's room and I'm like, I'm ready to start. They're like, okay. And I had my laptop and I literally started that minute on Bones.
You were totally unqualified.
Yeah, totally unqualified. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I started right away. So a lot of it is just being out here, and you never know where it's going to come from. And just really saying yes to everything.
Meeting people.
Yeah.
One more for you, Bill and Jenna. So if 3 important factors if in your guys' mind when you're looking for, say, a writer's assistant, if 3 important factors are their personality, in as much as you know it or can tell from an interview or if you've been on the set with them, their experience, and their actual writing sample that they have given you, rank them in importance?
Easy.
Yeah, I think we'll say
Personality.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Like
100%.
Is one.
It's
number one.
It's like I don't even think the other two are.
I had a friend who worked on Boardwalk Empire, and Terry Winters, who ran that show, he told him something that I think is totally true. He said, the one thing I look for in almost any writer or anyone I work for is hangability. Can this person hang out? Can this person be, you have to be with these people for 12 hours a day. It's like jury duty. You can basically fake that for a week, but when you have to be in a room for 5 months with someone, you've got to be able to know how to hang out. And that's always the number one.
The rest of it you can learn.
And there's very few prodigies out there who are going to write a perfect script anyway. And so we always say that being a writer, it's an apprenticeship. You're learning everything as you go along. So you're never going to do it perfectly. So we never expect those scripts to be good or great anyway.
Got it.
Personality.
Lisa, and what about you, Lisa? What are you telling students and alums now who are asking you for advice on the kind of entry level stuff?
Similar to what Bill said, I think, first of all, I already think people are so ahead of me. I say this whenever I speak to things at Duke. I didn't know I wanted to be in the business. I had no idea. I'm from Los Angeles, but I knew nothing. I didn't take any classes. I didn't do any internships. I mean, I came home because I lived in Los Angeles and needed a place to live, and I needed an entry-level job because I needed to make a car payment. And I was like, well, entertainment seems better than, being a hostess. Not that there's anything wrong with being a hostess. So I just got an entry-level job at an agency, and then I started to understand the business and what it is. And I was like, oh, I think the TV people feel more down to earth than the feature people. I'll do TV. And then I said, it was just that same thing that Bill said. I just met tons of people and constantly told people what I was interested in. And so much about is putting yourself on the line and just continuing to push and push and push and not expect things to happen immediately. I can, count the number of times, like weekly, I would call my parents and be like, I'm going back to school. This is a joke. I have no idea what I'm doing here. And then invariably a couple weeks later, something would happen or an opportunity would present itself. So you have to pay your dues. You have to be open to different things. And the job you have isn't necessarily the job you're going to end up with, but you'll learn a lot. You'll meet people. And I think to Bill and Jenna's point, it's just like being open and just like saying yes and doing the things maybe other people don't want to do. Like this is an amazing job. I get to work with incredibly talented people, but I had to do a lot of crappy stuff before, and I always volunteered and I always made myself known. And so you have to be patient, but it worked out. And I think again, in this time, it's a little challenging, but I do think because people are locked down, if you reach out to people and you say, do you have 10 minutes to jump on the phone? Can I send you a few questions? I think people are willing to do it because honestly, what else are they doing right now? I mean, not anything, but so I think it's just, having a lot of initiative and being proactive and being patient.
I love it. Retta, what would you recommend people who are interested in, whether it's being a performer or any part of the entertainment business, what would you tell people to spend their time doing, especially now when people, as Lisa's saying, do have kind of more time on their hands?
Well, now it's hard because for me, I agree, it's proximity. You're not going to do it outside of LA or New York. And I don't even know New York. Like, I don't even get it. So I don't even know how New Yorkers do it. I feel like, and to Lisa's point, you're gonna have to do some crappy stuff before you get to do what you really want. And sometimes you learn what you really want. You go in with one idea and you find out something different. Like one of the things that for me, so I got a new assistant and she's really good. She'd be a great producer. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, when I get my production company going, she is for sure going to be, someone important because I know she's innovative. I know she's a self-starter, and I know that kind of personality that I'd want to be around and feel comfortable saying, I need you to handle this, and I can walk away with it and think she's going to handle it. So, you know, being someone's assistant, it can be a tough job. I'm a great boss, but it can be a tough job. But if you show your abilities, it can move you to something better. I've so many times I've heard people, you know, they were an assistant for someone, and then their friend, you know, the friend is like, I'm starting this company, I need someone. I was like, well, I love my assistant, but she'd be great. And they let them basically take their assistant. Because I feel like people go through assistants, people tend to move on. They, you know, they accrue these skills and they can move on to bigger and better jobs. And there are people who are like, take this person, she would be perfect, she deserves it. And I keep saying she because I've only had girls as my assistant. But it's just get in the room some kind of way. Get in the Hollywood room some kind of way, whether it be going to all the parties that you get invited to, and just be someone who other people don't mind being around. Because for sure, no one's going to want to be stuck with someone who's a jerk, you know? So be your best self and just be visible. But also, you know, if you're a writer, you got to keep writing and that kind of thing. But just be, hang outable.
Yeah, I like that.
I would add one more thing. I would say it also doesn't matter what you do as your job when you come out here. Like, as long as you're sort of inside the gates, or like you're doing anything relative or related to entertainment, it's more or less how you do it. So like if you're getting coffee or you have to get lunch, and obviously everyone here goes to Duke and they're way above doing any of that because those are jobs that seem like, you know, way above way below what they would be doing from a Duke, you know, education. If you do that very, very well and you care every time you do it, it's amazing how like the dividends it pays. Like we always say all the time, like some of our assistants who are just so like with it and they anticipate things and just the most mundane things that they are way above. Mm-hmm. They do it so well that we want to read their scripts. We want to help them because they care so much and they make our lives easy in what seems like a simple, like a nothing way. But when we're working 12 hours a day and, you know, lunchtime rolls around and lunch is there on time and the order's perfect. I mean, it sounds like the most trivial thing, but it just means the world to us.
Because it ruins your day when you get that shit. Trust that. My day.
So and I think the mistake people make is they're like, no, I'm better in this. I'm going to prove how much better I am than getting lunch or getting coffee or doing whatever. And then they neglect getting the coffee or lunch because they want to show what a great writer they are. And that's backwards. And it's like, we already assume you're going to be good at that. We need you to do this other thing. And the fact that you've done it so well tells me you're going to be good at a lot of things, to what Retta's saying about her assistant.
It just endears you to them, and then you want to help them, and you go to the mat for them, getting them that next best job. So it's so simple, but people miss it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple last things before we wrap this up. I have one more question for you guys, Bill and Jenna. You know, we've talked about how the pandemic has kind of uprooted everything. Obviously, all of the kind of seismic changes and discussions about racial inequality, both in the entertainment industry and the world at large. How is that affecting how you are going about the planning of your upcoming season?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, we're
always sort of thinking that, you know, and
we always try to, you know, think of good girls, both off screen in the writer's room and, you know, on the page as representing the world we see. You know, I used to work for Shonda Rhimes, who was one of the first sort of big showrunners she got a lot of press for, like, you know, I remember when the Grey's Anatomy cast, you know, was cast first season, and it seems so dated now, but there was like a big sort of reaction to the fact that she had so many people of color in that cast. And she was like, she's like, to me, that's not a big deal at all. I'm literally writing the world I live in. And that struck me so much as like a young writer then, that she wasn't making some big statement. I mean, she was, but she wasn't intentionally making some big statement. She was literally reflecting as a storyteller the world she saw. So, I mean, I know I've always tried to sort of carry that with me in terms of casting, in terms of representation, in terms of the stories we tell. And, you know, especially—
They always come from like an empowering place.
And especially now, I think in the writer's room, you know, we do, you know, we've sort of dipped our toe even with Stan and Ruby stories. Like, we've done some stories about race, and I never want those stories to be, you know, crafted by a white person. They should be crafted by a person of color who's experienced those stories. And they've always come from that place in the writer's room too. So I think—
And a lot of those stories do come from personal experiences.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember we did a
a
whole Stan and Ruby thing where Stan was talking about how he had to have this talk with his son on the show, Harry, about what it means to be a young Black boy versus a white boy when, you know, the cops pull you over. And that came from a writer of color in our room who had that talk with her son. And it was something none of us could have experienced, have experienced. And anyway, I think it's important to, you know, really have those voices represented in your writer's room, especially now, but it's always been important before everybody's been paying attention to it.
And we want them to be real so they're relatable and not, you know, crafted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Retta, obviously it's early days on this, but have you seen shifts in conversations that your team is having with you, opportunities that are being presented, or are we going to wait to see the dividends of that?
I'm sorry. The sound was really weird. I think I picked up. Can you understand me?
Yeah.
Okay, your sound is really weird. But I did hear what you said. 4 years I have been in a position where I'm like, I know as a Black woman, my negotiating power is different. And I bring it up, but I never fight. And this is the first year that I was like, you know what, fuck this shit. Now everybody hears it, they get it, they see it, they know it. It's not fucking bullshit, be aware of it. And I've like been like a fucking crazy person with my manager on the phone. I was like, enough! And I know it's crazy to say because my bosses are on, but I was like, I'm sorry, I'm fucking done. I'm like, I've worked for this company 12 years. So I finally got my voice in this. So it is different. It's been a tough, being stuck in my house and seeing all this shit, having known it for years, and seeing people being like, oh my God, I had no idea. And I'm like, what have people been screaming? Like, what have you heard when people have been screaming all this time? And I mean, that's just just in general. That's, you know, me going to fucking Target and having to deal with someone, and I know it's coming from a racial place, and I just have to be like, she's a crazy person, let me walk away, because otherwise you're gonna go to fucking jail because I'm gonna choke this bitch out right now. That's just life. So when it came to work, you're like, you need to work, just let it go, it's fine. And this is the first year that I've been like, I'm done. So it's different. It's different this year, and we'll see, you know, how it plays out, you know, in my career and Black careers, and how people stand up for themselves and what have you. But I'm hoping, you know, this is the shift just in general, just in life, and not having to put up with shit and people being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
For you. Claim your power. That's what I have to say. I hope my sound is better, by the way, but thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let me end with the 2 minutes we have left. Totally going to switch gears. I want all four of you guys to recommend something that's available right now on TV or on a streaming service that maybe most people haven't heard of. What's something that's out there that you would want to recommend to people? Lisa Katz, I'm going to start with you.
I knew you were going to do that. I mean, I can just say I don't have a lot of, the irony is I don't have a lot of time to watch television, because once I've watched and read all of the shows that we're involved in, which I love, so thank goodness I like them because it takes a lot of time. I also have small children that are home all the time now and require attention and education. So that being said, the one thing I did recently watch that I loved was Normal People. But I think people
just took
That's
on.
okay. That's okay. It could be the same thing. You guys
I
like
liked
that
it because they were short and so just, it was so intimate and character driven, and I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
That's ours.
That was ours. That was
All right,
ours.
that's good. That's good.
Sorry.
You guys are simpatico. All right, Retta, finish us up. What should we watch?
I haven't given a lot of time to new things. Being stuck in the house, you kind of want comforting. So I've gone back to things that I love. And so I'm almost finished with The Good Wife again. I've been watching Parks. I enjoyed Parks, but it's nice to be so far away from it and then to go back. I just started back with Curb. I'm going back to things that I enjoyed just because it makes you feel at home and makes it feel a little bit normal. I started I May Destroy You.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Michaela, yeah.
I just started it, so I don't even know if I like it yet. So that's the only new thing other than, like Killing Eve, other than new things that I started a while ago and are into second and third seasons. That's the first new thing that I've done. But I like Sex Education on Netflix. I'm the worst because people always ask me what I'm watching and I never remember. And then I get off whatever call, interview, meeting, and then I'm like, oh my God, dude, I can watch. And I just never remember. But The Good Wife has really been keeping me together.
Good.
The last few weeks.
You did great. So listen, guys, we're out of time. I want to thank Retta and Jenna and Bill and Lisa again. And Amy, you're just a rock star. Listen, Amy posted in the chat the next two of these. The chat has since blown up when Retta was talking last, so you have to scroll way back, but maybe she'll do it again. But on Monday the 20th, there's another one of these with people who work for Sean Diddy Combs' Revolt TV, talking about social justice journalism. There's one on July 30th talking about making a commercial for ESPN. She's got all these really diverse events coming up in the next couple of weeks. So please continue to pay attention to them. And thank you, Retta, Lisa, Bill, and Jenna for just taking an hour of your time to do this. And I hope that you guys who are watching found it helpful and useful and entertaining. So thank you, Amy.
For being the best host, Dave Karger.
You're very sweet.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It was a total pleasure. And Amy, am I forgetting anything? Just shake your head no or no. Okay, good. So we're good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Enjoy
everyone.
the rest of your night.